on from where you are logging in and joining us today. My name is Anna Wise, and I am the Director of International Recruitment here at Hamilton College. I am so glad to have all of you joining us. I'm really excited to be kicking off our first event for international students here at Hamilton College for the incoming class. It's going to be a really great session. I'm real excited for our students who are joining us today, our student panelists, and those of you who are logging in from all around the world. Hello from Istanbul, Laura. So with that said, this panel is really dedicated towards our international community here at Hamilton, and we have an all-star group of panelists today who are current international students who are logging in from Hamilton College. So I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. I'm going to ask them to introduce their name, their year, their hometown, major, and a couple of activities they're involved with. Starting with Panita.
So sorry, that is my alarm. Hey, I'm Panita. I'm a senior. I'm from Thailand. I am a psychology major and a theater minor. Yeah, at Hamilton, I'm part of the theater production crew, and I work at the library as a digital media tutor, and I'm going to be part of our special interest community next year.
Fabulous. What's the special interest community focused on, Panita?
It's currently focused on video games, so I like video games, yay. And I'm sorry, but there is construction going on in the background, so if you hear a couple beeps, that's going to be from me.
Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, there's construction going on nearby, so that'll happen, but it should be fine. Okay, wonderful. Yassine, you can introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. My name is Yassine. I am a sophomore here at Hamilton from Tunisia. I am a computer science major with a minor in economics. Here on campus, I'm a student photographer, so I take pictures with the school's social media accounts, and I'm also part of club soccer.
Thank you, thank you. And last but not least, Cherry.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Cherry. I was born in Harbin, China, which is like the north part of China, and I am a rising junior next year. I major in anthropology and economics. On campus, I'm also a student photographer, and I also work at the cafe here, and I'm also part of the Business Connect team in the Career Center.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you, each of you, for waking up early also and joining us this morning, morning our time, of course. So with that said, I also want to note that my colleague, Brenna May, who's another one of our admission officer colleagues, she's going to be answering chat questions submitted through the chat. So if you have questions that you want answered, you can submit them through the chat. If you want to send them to the panelists as well, we're happy to pass those on that way as well. But if you see someone in the chat, that's going to be Brenna May, our colleague. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. So right now, students who are logging in are likely still towards the beginning of their college application process. And we all know it's a bit of a stressful experience applying to college, right? Particularly applying in another country. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about your college search process. What was it like? What were some things that you experienced? What do you remember when you think back on that time? Starting with Cherry?
Yes. I think so. Initially, I was deciding over bigger universities versus liberal arts. I think that's a major decision you want to make, or you want to keep in mind when you're looking at all of the colleges. And then, I know it sounds a little cheesy, but my advisor did ask me this question. She was like, where do you see yourself to be happy and to be supported? And I told her, oh, I'm seeing myself in a smaller community. So I get to know everyone knows me. And then she was like, oh, then liberal arts probably will be a better option for you if that's what you wanted. So, and then kind of I narrowed down my focus at liberal arts. I did a few walking tours. You can also do that. We also have Division 1 online, which is really awesome if you can be here in person. And Hamilton was the one that really gravitated me the most. And it's also the only campus or only college I applied in the end.
Oh, wow. Hamilton was the only college you applied to. Yeah, so that whole tip about being able to visit through campus, that's of course a very hard thing to do, even before pandemic times. But like you said, we have really, really great virtual visit opportunities. We also have the tour from your sofa option, right? Which allows students to log on and actually get a FaceTime tour of campus, oftentimes individually with some of our student tour guides. So great opportunity to experience campuses and to really see what's the type of fit for me. Yassine, you think on your college search process, what do you remember?
I definitely remember making the biggest spreadsheet ever. I recommend doing it honestly. So you make a spreadsheet with all the colleges you're looking at. The College Board website is an amazing resource for that. So you can keep track of all the schools, the statistics, what if they require, I know that a lot of schools aren't requiring testing right now. So you can keep track of, for example, their financial aid statistics, their scores for TOEFL, for example, because a lot of international students, they need to take TOEFL for English proficiency. But also one thing that I added to my spreadsheet was one column at the end that I described the school in one word. Like, what's the one thing I remembered from that one school? And the one thing at Hamilton was, I think it was the open curriculum that stuck the most with me. And just like Sherry, and this is just pure coincidence, I only applied just here.
All right. And so, Panita, advice that you have from the college search process.
Oh, how I went through the college process?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So honestly, I did something similar to Yassine, but not as great. I just made like a more like a checklist, basically, not a whole entire spreadsheet of things I was looking for in a college, things that were kind of like I really, really wanted. Like I wanted to go to a liberal arts college. Hopefully it was small and kind of far away from everything. I sort of like grew up in a rural area and I kind of wanted to continue that, I guess. And Hamilton kind of fit that. And a couple of other schools also fit that. Of course, I checked whether, it's financially available, whether the community seemed to fit what I hopefully would have. Hopefully the community was an environment that I hopefully could have flourished in, those kinds of things. Of course, there was also a final that final checklist of whether that vibe fit me or not, and that was kind of like abstract, and it's hardly ever a yes or a no question, but Hamilton got that tick, so to speak. Just from what I heard when talking to alumni, during interviews, talking to the admissions officers, looking like through the virtual tours, and I was like, wow, seems like a great place. I was not able to visit any of the colleges I applied to beforehand, so I made full use of the virtual tours, and I would advise you to do the same if you don't have the opportunity. I didn't only apply to Hamilton, but I did apply early D, so I was like, yeah, this is the place I want to go.
So if you, I'm interested when you say like vibes, you're like, you can't always say yes or no to vibe questions, but Yassine talked about open curriculum kind of as his like major takeaway. What would you think Hamilton's vibe like, Anita?
It's like a small, tight-knit community that really supports you. We're kind of like far away from everything too, so it is literally physically kind of like tight-knit. We're always here all the time whenever I walk across campus. You're always saying hi to everybody. I'm kind of bad with faces and names, but I know vaguely that I do know most of the people that I walk past. They know my name, but sometimes I don't know theirs. That is a me problem, but I do know them. Yeah.
Very cool. So then let's take even a further step back. Of course, a lot of students at this point, they are considering applying to the US, hopefully applying to Hamilton, but they might still be considering a few other countries as well, whether staying in a local country or maybe another country abroad to study. So I'd love to know what made you decide that you wanted to study in the US specifically. How did that decision happen? What can you talk about that decision? Maybe we start with Yassine.
Yeah, for sure. For me, being from Tunisia, it's very common to it's even more common to go to Europe than to go to the US. But the major difference for me was that if you go study in Europe, for example, you get the academic side and that's it. Everything else, you're in charge of it. You probably are gonna live in your own apartment. You're gonna rent an apartment. You're probably gonna have, outside of school, nothing else to do. You're gonna have to, but here in the US, you're on a campus and the campus is an entire community. And outside of academics, everything else you do, you're going to do on campus, athletic activities, you have all the facilities that you need. So it's just, being part of one community that has everything that you need, that prepares me more to get out there in the world once I graduate. I feel like straight out of high school, I'm not ready yet, you know? And one thing I always tell people, you go to Europe, you're going to have to pay for your own gym subscription. Go to the US, gym is part of campus. So yeah, I feel like studying in the US is the best way to prepare you, because you're still for 4 years surrounded by people your own age. Instead of, you go to some other countries, you're out there in the real world, basically.
So that whole comment about the gym is kind of funny. I know I actually, Cherry was the first one who told me that our gym has a Peloton bike and all of that type of thing right here on campus. So if you're into Peloton bikes, I know Cherry goes most mornings, right, Cherry? Is that true?
Yes. Before tours.
Before tours, yes. Now that you give tours, it's a lot of exercise already, for sure. So Cherry, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what made you decide to come to the US versus staying in China versus applying to a different country?
Yes. So I did come here for high school, and at least, well, speaking from Chinese students' perspective, a lot of students would decide either go to Canada or the US. And academic prestige-wise, I really would say that US schools would have a higher prestige, just in all honesty. So wherever you want to go after your college experiences, it kind of gives you, I don't know, like a more encompassing ticket to go to other places. And I think liberal arts, like just to echo what Yasin just said, liberal arts also give you that kind of extra support, that if you're thinking between Canada and US, and you're thinking, oh, I want somewhere safer, like somewhere like smaller and tighter, and liberal arts will be a very unique kind of positionality in the US for you.
Thank you. And Panita, same question.
Well, maybe I just wanted to find what the fuss was all about the US, but not really. Okay, give me a moment. I just really wanted to expand my boundaries, I guess. I just wanted to go out there from the small rural town that I kind of grew up in, and I wanted to go to a new country and see if I could, find a place there. It's the same idea of being a part of a community, and I just felt like I already had a community in Thailand, so I was trying to get myself out there and build something new. And hopefully I would find something new about myself too in a new environment with new people. Well, of course, if I went to college elsewhere, there were new people too. That this was novel in many ways. And I just wanted to go on that adventure.
And your horizons and figure out the vibe of the United States. There you go. So then when you decided to apply to the United States, I'd love to know if you had a piece of advice that someone gave you that was really valuable for you when you were applying. What was that piece of advice? Who gave it to you? If we can start with Panita.
Piece of advice someone gave me was that there is something unique about you. You are yourself, and there is something that is different about you from everybody else. So don't stress too much about not maybe being similar to all those other folks you might have seen in those, sample essays, applications, what have you. There is something about yourself that will shine through if you wanted to. Maybe you just have to uncover it, find that authentic true self. If that says this, I'm sorry, I'm a psychology person, but just be yourself is what she told me. I was like, okay, I'll be myself.
That's one of those things people tell you and you're like, yeah, okay, so how do I make sure I get all that down to a college application, right? But I know at Hamilton particularly, this idea of authentic self is kind of a big deal for us. We have our motto and everything with know thyself. But it's great that somebody was able to give you that advice even through the application process and kind of get you a bit of a head start on that. Yassine, if you could talk to us a little bit about some advice someone may have given you. Who gave it to you and why?
I think the best advice I've ever had was from a student that went to my high school, and he was older than me, so he went to the US before I did. And one advice he told me, I was, I think, junior year, and he was like, start working on that personal statement. I don't care where you're going. I don't care what school you're looking at. You're going to start working on that personal statement. And junior summer, I want you to almost be done with it by the end of junior summer so we can spend the whole year working on it, improving it. And I think that is some of the best advice I've ever had, because, I've seen people struggle when they started, their whole application process late. So I definitely recommend, for just the peace of mind and to have room for improvement and growth, especially those junior and senior years. I mean, honestly, once I started my personal statement, by the end, when I submitted it, I was an entirely different person at the time. So a lot of it changed.
So really giving yourself the space to express yourself, to revise, and also not to super stress about deadlines and things like that. Yeah, I know that's something I have to challenge myself also, to make sure I set my deadlines ahead of time so that I can go back and revise, because so much of life is revising, right? And Cherry, advice that you received, what would that advice be?
Yeah. Oh, I have additional just comment for the personal statement. Like, just don't treat it as a task. I really think personal statement is a great kind of process for you to think about what you actually learned from high school. Like, I understand it seems easier. Like I was like, oh, like, don't stress about it. But when you look back at your personal statement, it almost like it composes everything that you went through and the things you think about, all of the reflections you did. So treat it as something like a growth project. But back to my advice. So someone told me to seek discomfort. So it is not going to be smooth sailing. Absolutely, like it won't be like that. Even though we have tons of supports, but you will encounter those moments you are homesick. You feel like, why no one else understands me? Why can't I be in a group that I felt loved? Like, all of those moments will appear, would happen, and but you have to really like accept those moments and kind of find other ways to mitigate that. So seeking discomfort would be a great advice for you. It will go a long way.
I think that brings us quite smoothly actually into a question we received from one of our participants, which was talking about students' mental health and support services just for specifically for international students. So I think it's very wise to say, hopefully everything is, you're going to have a great experience in the United States. But the reality is that at times it's going to get hard, right? If it was easy, everyone would do it. So we need to make sure that we're prepared for those types of experiences, and also that the college has support mechanisms in place that can support you through that experience as well. So I'm hoping we could talk a little bit about how does Hamilton support students' mental health here on campus. And I'll pass this to whoever feels like they want to answer, because I know it's one that was just submitted. Does someone who'd like to talk about that? Go ahead, Jerry.
I know that Hamilton are constantly hiring new counselors from different backgrounds. We have, at least from my perspective, we have like 2 Asian counselors who are really amazing. And I know it's also very relatively easy to book an appointment, because I know for some universities, it takes like weeks for you to actually get that counselor. And the time that you get that counselor problem are no longer there. And we also have group therapy. Well, we also have peer counselor. If you feel more connected to talk to your peers about your concerns or things you want to talk about. We also have sound therapy, acupuncture. Like, we also have a nutritionist. Like, we have tons of resources for you as long as you reach out and use them.
Thank you. Yassine or Anita, do either of you want to add to that? Yeah, Yassine, go ahead.
For me, besides the mental health resources and the mental health professionals that we have here on campus, One thing that was vital for me as an international student was one of our organizations. So we have an organization called the ICA, which is the International Cultural Association. And for me, that was one of the best resources to have for support, because these are people who are involved as soon as an international student makes it on campus, and they do a great job of working with our dean, Mr. Alan Harrison. And basically, they are friends and support system throughout the semester. So it's not very formal. You get to meet them as people, you get to go to their events. And especially with COVID last year, they had so many events where all we did was went somewhere and talked. So we talked about, some of the issues international students have, some of the problems they had maybe adjusting. And that space really was a safe space for me and for so many other international students last year. And the good thing is that now they're gaining traction and they're getting bigger. So they're going to be even more involved with future international students.
I think it's so important to make sure you have both a community of new people. We've talked a lot about the need to expand and to meet new people, and that's a lot of what the US is, but at the same time, it's important to be around some other people who kind of get it, right? It's a unique experience studying in another country, different culture, far away from home, and being able to connect with people who get it. So the ICA, the International Cultural Association, I know it's a very active group that's oftentimes run by a lot of international students who are here already. It can be so helpful to connect with people who are going through similar experiences, but maybe have been here a year or two longer. Can we talk about any additional services or organizations that are specifically for international students here on campus? This was also a question that was submitted. So the ICA is one of them. Would somebody be able to talk a little bit about maybe some of the programs that are run through Dean Harrison's office?
Does anyone else want to talk about it? I would talk
Go ahead,
about
Jerry.
one that I know. So we have a peer mentor program. Basically, when you come here, and if you want to, obviously, we don't want to force anything to you. You can be paired up with like a performer who are international or who are not international, but they volunteer to help you with this program. So the way that it works is you will be paired up with a student mentor, and then throughout the semester, for example, back in the days, my mentor took me out for coffee and we had like meals, and I love just staying in her room sometimes and tell her everything that's going on, and she will give me like advices. Like, we became one of the closest friends I ever had here. And so I really think that is a great program if you want like a big sister or a big brother here, which is really great.
I know we also have a program where we pair international students with local area families as well. So if you're interested in experiencing some US culture, international friendship program, that's what that's called. And it pairs students with family members for things like celebrating Thanksgiving dinner, which I know is always the one that we think about as the big US holiday that's kind of a uniquely US thing. But it's really great to have people you be connected to there. So then let's expand a little bit outside of our, so we're talking about international student support mechanisms, but let's look at the overall student body here at Hamilton. So how diverse would you say the student body is? And this is also a question that has been submitted in the chat. So how diverse is the student population here at Hamilton? And how does that impact life as an international student? Does anybody want to take this question? Maybe Yassine, would you like to take this question? Great.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Yassine.
Coming here, it was one of my concerns also, like how diverse would this campus be? But I was genuinely surprised. I've had so many people from different backgrounds that I met during my first year here at Hamilton, and it wasn't only international students. It was also it was a diverse body of students from the US or international students. And the cool thing is that it's very fun to be part of that community because, not everyone gets to be part of the international community. So it's very fun to know that you have people across campus, and a good chunk of them that know exactly what it feels like to be international, and to know that it's basically an additional group of people that you can fall back to whenever you want someone to talk to, if you need any help. But also there's someone you're going to have your own activities with. So you can go, for example, a lot of our international students, we celebrate some of our cultural maybe holidays, events together. And you would say international students are more aware of the different cultures that are on campus, so they make sure they make campus feel a little bit more like home whenever they can. So just that the other international students will give back in time as well. So it's really a cool community, and international students, they make campus feel a lot more like home, honestly.
Ito, would you like to add to that at all about diversity of campus community here at Hamilton?
Sorry,
Can
was
you
that
hear
a
us?
question?
Oh, yeah, I was asking to Panita, but I'm not sure. I think my
me.
internet might be a little bit funky right now.
Yeah. I could parse the name. Yeah, so talking about diversity here at Hamilton, Justine is right in that it is diverse and not just the international students, but also the domestic students. And I feel like that really gives you, they really bring their own breadth, I don't know the word, of their experience to Hamilton. It shines through in, when you're talking to people in class, it's just a whole multifaceted sort of like experience when you're discussing and you see that people have different perspectives, maybe because of their background or their personality, their what have you. And it's just nice to know that there are people who are different, but different in a way that connects you all together in a sense.
The fact that even quite a lot of the American students come from all over the country and all different types of backgrounds. So everybody's kind of experiencing something new together, forming the community. So, and a lot of that type of getting to know each other and forming the community happens in residence halls and residence life, right? So we had some questions in the chat about residential life here at Hamilton. And the first thing, of course, to know is that, like Yassine said, one of the differentiating factors about the US is that oftentimes you'll be living on campus. And at Hamilton, everyone lives on campus for all 4 years, unless they are studying abroad in another country, or they are studying in one of our New York City, Washington, DC, or Boston semesters. So I'd love to know if we can talk a little bit about residential life. Maybe we'll start with Cherry here. Can you talk to us about residential life on campus? What was your experience like? What can you tell us about residential life at Hamilton?
Yeah, so your first year here, you will be put in a first year, mainly first year dorms, and which is really great because you are hanging out with the people in your class, and there will be RA, which are like dorm leaders kind of position. They will organize activities every weekend. I know that my dorm leader, my first year, loves to bake cookies. I always make sure I get one every weekend. So, and then once you move up, like second year, third year, and fourth year, you also can get the options living in a suite kind of style housing. So I'm currently in a suite right now, and you have like a kitchen area. You guys can all cook together, and then, which is really great. It's almost like an apartment style as well.
So first year, you're going to be living with other freshmen, and then for continuing years, multiple different options. So Panita, can you talk a little bit maybe about what's the process like of being paired with a roommate, right? Because I know that might be something that people are a little bit nervous about sometimes. What's that process like?
So when you're having survey, you do fill out like, a form about, your living preferences, your living style, or they'll ask you questions like, are you messy? Are you clean? Are you loud? Do you stir in your room? Do you sleep late at night? Are you an early bird? So those are the kinds of questions that residential life will ask you to hopefully match you with a roommate that will best fit you. I don't think we have a roommate matching algorithm, so residential life will go through and hand match you with somebody. And I think they did a great job. I think most of the folks I know liked or loved their first year roommate. I liked my first year roommate. She was great. We were both night owls. I think we both indicated that in our form. So we never really had an issue there. And you know what, after you do meet your roommate and you get situated together, you will also have to fill out a additional like roommate agreement so that you're both on the same page after, you know, you pair together. And that's usually what you'll use if you have any issues later on. But it's a smooth sailing process, in my opinion.
So the roommate agreement, that's interesting. Is that something that's specific for each set of roommates, or where do those agreements come from?
I think it's the RAs that do it mostly. It doesn't really have to be like a formal kind of thing. Not all the time. I think it depends on the RA. But we did like for me and my roommate, we did sign our names.
Yeah. So it's like we're going to make sure we clean everything on a Thursday or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Some type of rule for getting along. So then I think when we also think about community, because we've been talking about residential life, we've been talking about some of the organizations. Let's also talk about our location. We've talked about the fact that we are located in a small rural area, right? And the town that we're in is called Clinton. So I'm going to pass this to Yassine in just a minute. But I'm wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about the surrounding area, Clinton, some of the location. How would you describe the area and community around Hamilton? If somebody said, tell me about Clinton and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, for sure. Clinton is this gorgeous little town in upstate New York. Coming here, I thought Clinton was going to be a typical small town here in the US, nothing special to see. But after COVID and staying over the summer, I had the chance to just walk down the hill and sometimes spend hours a day in Clinton. I'm in love with the place. You go down the hill, as soon as you leave the campus, you're in the middle of Clinton, this beautiful village where a lot of people do some walking, some running. Sometimes I would even FaceTime like my parents when I'm walking down the village just to show them around. It's such a calming, beautiful space. And once you go to the heart of town, you have this little square with a park and a little fountain, and you have all these small businesses, restaurants, ice cream shops, and everything like that. And it's such a beautiful community, and no wonder so many students, especially during the weekend, they love to go there maybe in the morning, get some coffee. Such a beautiful space. But we also, one thing I realized that we're not really as remote as like you would think we are. Right next to us, we have the town of New Hartford. And honestly, as a student, it has everything you need: restaurants, some entertainment, and groceries. And then if you're willing to go a little farther, we have the city of Utica, and that is your typical, big city, and we have everything you need. One thing I realized this summer, we have a bowling club here on campus, and they have an agreement with a bowling alley in Utica. So actually, if you're part of the bowling club, you can bowl for free in Utica, and that's why half of the campus is part of the bowling club.
Good tip. Good tip. That's the insider information for bowling. Absolutely. I'm a terrible bowler personally. I do much better when the bumpers are up, but I know that that's like, also if there's like a cute character on the bowling ball, I also do better. It's something about my psyche. But good tip. All right. So would somebody else like to talk a little bit about the community? I know Yassine did a great job talking about Clinton, New Hartford, and Utica. What is the other surrounding area around here like? Is it Carrie, would you be able to describe a little bit the surrounding area?
Like the surrounding areas like Clinton, New Hartford.
Right. So is it dry? Is it cold? Is it hot? What's the area like, the environment like?
Oh, weather. So we do have 4 clear seasons. It's really great. And we do have winter here, like a full-on winter. So it does snow. Like I know some people from the tropical areas, probably have never seen really big snow. But trust me, it's gonna be over before you know it. And if you're into winter sports, we have tons of like Norge skiing club. One time I went snowshoeing, and we tend to have like s'mores outside, like we have bonfire. So there's like tons of winter activities we love to do here. So that's the weather. I do always rent out a Happy Light from the counseling center, put that in my room over the winter so it can mimic sunlight. If you're like me who loves like light up her room, you can also do that as well.
Oh, so the happy light, that's kind of like a light that you can bring inside that kind of is similar to sunlight, right? So when it's
Yeah.
cold inside, if you're like, I don't want to go outside, you can still get your sun fill that way from the counseling center. And I think it's pretty fun to talk about also the snowshoeing. I know myself, I experienced for the first time this year cross-country skiing. And you can do that right here on campus and for free using skis from our campus center as well. So if you're from a warm climate, or even I'm not from a warm climate, I just had never gotten cross-country skiing before, you have that option here as well. So let's pivot a little bit because we have some students were asking questions also about the academic experiences here and about experiential learning. So specifically, we have a student who wants to know about research opportunities here on campus. So I would love, I know at least two of you have done research even this summer. So I'm going to pass to both of you if you could talk about what's the experience like getting involved in research with a faculty member. Is it hard? Is it complicated? What was your experience like? Maybe we start with Cherry.
Oh, okay. So I've been doing research for 2 consecutive summers now, and I'm really grateful that we have a Levitt and Emerson Center. They focus on funding students' research, working with professors, and I'm just so grateful that they will pay me a certain amount of money, which is like, and take so much value on the words I write. So this summer I'm writing on liberal arts education. If you're interested, exactly what we're talking about. But I'm working with 2 professors, and by the end of my paper writing process, we will get to present it and even publish it in the future. So I think it's really a great opportunity to work closely with professors, and they'll give you advice that you probably wouldn't be able to get in like a big classroom setting. But when I say big, even the biggest classroom we have here is 25 people or ish. So yeah.
Thank you. And I know, Yassine, you also did research this summer. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of research on campus?
Yeah, it was, I would say by far, one of the favorite things I've done on this campus, because honestly, I feel like my research opportunity, that's what education is all about. You get so used to taking classes and exams and everything, but having the chance to first of all meet one of your professors in such an informal setting where you guys can just sit around and do work together, discuss work. And the cool thing is that professors here, once you're working with them, they really regard you as, they don't look down on you. Basically, you feel like you contribute as much as they do, and they give you all the props. And for example, this summer I was doing research with the computer science department, and we did research for 8 weeks. And basically what we did is we learned a new language of coding, which is amazing to learn a language in less than, we had 1 week to learn it. And it was such a fun environment.
Very tiring.
Yeah, it was such a fun environment because we were doing it through the summer, and the weather was amazing. So we would sit outside on the grass, me, my coworker, and my professor, and we would just learn. And then for 8 weeks, we were taking a look at algorithms, at code. We were making our own code, and it felt like one of those scenes in movies, where you have 2 people writing on a board with chalk and they look like they're doing something important. It felt exactly like that. And like I said, you feel like your efforts are appreciated. At the end, we got the chance to publish our findings, and it's so cool to have your name after your first year of college, to have your name somewhere on a paper. But also, we make it extremely easy here at Hamilton. I don't think you'll get research like this anywhere else, because I got my research just by emailing a professor. I never had to apply. I never had to compete with other students. He appreciated the fact that I was interested and I was on board. And like, I know people from other institutions, they have to compete with their students on their campus and students on other campuses that want to work at their campus for research. But here we have our pre-med students, for example, who want to take, maybe they need the lab experience. They can literally take lab research in any of the departments in our science center. And basically, if you want to pursue research here at Hamilton, we make it possible that you pursue your research.
Thank you, thank you. I know that's something that a lot of people are nervous about. One of the reasons, of course, that we don't have a lot of competition for finding research opportunities, in addition to the small classroom sizes and individual professor relationships, is the fact that we don't have PhD or master's students here, right? So when faculty members are hiring for lab assistants, like you said, Yassine, they're hiring really undergraduate students, and there's going to be opportunity if you're willing to put yourself out there, and of course, willing to do the work. It's always important to be willing to do the work. So let's kind of combine that a little bit with our academics here on campus. Now, we mentioned earlier, and Yassine said one of the differentiating factors you wrote on your list was the open curriculum. So I'm going to pass this to Panita in just a moment. But I'd love to talk a little bit about the open curriculum. What is the open curriculum from your experience? What types of courses have you been able to experience because of the open curriculum? And maybe for fun, if you could tell us one class that you really enjoyed that you would not have expected, you know? So like one of the things the open curriculum allowed you to experience that was really impactful for you. Passing to Panita.
Yeah. So the open curriculum here at Hamilton basically just means that we don't really have any sort of like general education requirements. We don't have like, certain classes that everybody has to take, and you sort of have the academic freedom to take a whole bunch of classes and broaden your, perspective, go out of your comfort zone. We call it study what you love, but in my opinion, it's not just about studying what you love, but figuring out what you love so you can study it, and figuring out whether it is what you love so you can study more of it. So my experience here with the open curriculum, my first year, I just took a whole bunch of courses and things that even like interested me at the slightest. And I just was like, I don't know if this is my thing, but who knows, if I take it, maybe I'll like it a lot. One of the things that I really, really liked was intro to theater. I've never really been like a big theater person, but once I took that class, I was like, wow, that is for me. And that was half the reason why I wanted to join main stage production, be part of the crew, and why I'm like finishing up a minor in it right now. So I really do have to thank that class for a lot of things. And your academic advisors will definitely also encourage you to go outside the box. I think the reason I sort of took a whole bunch of courses that were not science my second semester because was because my academic advisor was like, Panita, think about taking something else. And I did, and I loved it. So that's really how it is.
Lots of space for exploration, but also you have an academic advisor who's helping you navigate that process, being like, okay, let's make sure you're taking advantage of these opportunities, right? I'd love to hear also both from Yassine and Cherry. So Panita, you were saying taking intro to theater was kind of a surprising thing. You're like, oh wow, this is for me. I really enjoy this. Now you're completing up a minor, so that's kind of like a really strong example of experiencing something new and kind of finding a new passion. But Yassine and Cherry, if I can ask you a similar question, what's a really interesting class that you've taken that you probably only did so because of the open curriculum? And what would that be? Maybe we'll start with Cherry.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just thinking. I've taken environmental history, a class I never thought I would ever take, and which is really because it's one of the writing intensive requirements, because we do have 3 writing intensive requirements, but you can take that in really any kind of classes. If you're not like an English person, you can just take it in algebra. That also works. So for my environmental history, my professor talked to us about how like the way the history was written, and how the stories are constructed, which is just like mind blowing, really. Like, I think in high school I just thought, oh, history is history. I just remember whatever my professor told me it is what it is, but it's not. It is definitely not that. There's so much nuances going to the storytelling of history, and who is like. So I can talk like on and on about it because I'm just so interested in that class. So that's something that was very surprising that I took, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yassine, same question.
I would say my surprisingly fun class that I took was international relations. Being a computer science major and with a minor in economics, I just my academic advisor was like, take something in government, take something in maybe literature, humanities, you might like it. So I went for international relations, and it was by far my favorite class, my first year here. And it was just very interesting to see what other students thought about the world, but also to make it possible for me to give my insight and let people hear what a kid from North Africa has to say about the world. And I like that class so much that I'm taking another class in the government department, which is policy in the Middle East. And honestly, I don't even know how it's going, but I think I'm gonna keep doing these government classes. And one day I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be maybe a government minor.
Just like Panita, right? So she's like took a theater, now she's a theater minor. So that's really one of the cool things about the open curriculum is discovering new interests and the ability to pursue them. So with that said, we're having a lot of questions in the chat. Thank you everyone for being so engaged. It's very exciting. So we have somebody who's asking some technical questions. Can international students stay on campus over the breaks? Somebody want to talk about this? Staying on campus over the breaks? Yeah, Nita, go ahead.
Well, with the exception of summer break where it's a little bit more wonky, you can stay over the break. You just basically have to not really petition, but they'll send out an email about if you have to stay over the break or not. And they're generally very understanding about international students staying over the break. I've stayed over the break for most of the breaks, not winter break and Thanksgiving break, just because I just can't really go home. And I've never had an issue getting that done. And staying with the break with mostly other international students is really fun too. You're kind of like all, there's like this one semester where we were all like cooped up in one like residence hall because it was snowing really hard outside, and we just sort of were like cooking to pass the time basically. And the ICA used to have like Thanksgiving break trips that they would host for mostly for international students and other people as well. I've been on a couple of those and they were really, really fun. We basically go to like cities like Boston, Philly. Those are the places I've been to, and it's really, really great exploring America with other fellow international students, and that's one of the opportunities that's available as well.
Yeah, so taking trips over to Philadelphia. I think those were like a 4-day trip, basically, right? Something like that. I remember that was before COVID time, so we'll have to see if we're able to do that again sometime soon. But it's a really great opportunity to get out there and experience more of what the East Coast area particularly has to offer. So let's talk then, Nita, you mentioned the fact of like cooking and things like that. We've all kind of talked a little bit tangentially about cooking, but I'd love to hear about food on campus. So I know this is a concern that some people have, right? So I'm going to pass this to Yassine in just a moment. But if you can talk about food opportunities on campus, are there varied options that people have specific either health or religious dietary restrictions? Are they going to be able to do that here at Hamilton?
Yeah, for sure. One thing about the food here at Hamilton, there's so many options. And we make it extremely easy to choose what you want to eat. So basically, usually before going out to get any meals, a lot of the students here, they will check the Hamilton app and they'll take a look at the menu and decide which dining hall they're going to go at. And that's usually where a lot of the groups separate because they decide to go to different dining halls. But basically, I love the way we do dining here because very transparent. everything you eat, you'll see the ingredients. You'll see, we have a little chart that says, if this food is like safe for people with allergies, if it's vegan, if it's vegetarian, if it's halal, anything like that, they will let you know. So you know exactly what you're eating. But also, like I said, we have so many different dining halls. So we have McEwen, for example, that caters for vegetarian and vegan diets. It has the global station that makes food from around the world at least twice a day. We have Commons Dining Hall, which is the main dining hall on campus, where we have, your main course. We have access to all these different stations, like a pizza bar, a salad bar, a sandwich bar, and a sushi bar. And also in Commons, we have the Simply Oasis station, which is food that is 100% safe for people with allergies. And then we also have some more, fun, uncommon dining halls, like Diner, for example. And this is basically our 1950s style diner, where we have the red booths, the jukeboxes, and during the week it works as a regular dining hall, but during the weekends it's open until like 3 in the morning, and it serves breakfast food for students. And if you have the app Grubhub on your phone, you can pre-order the food in advance. So really, we have a lot of different varieties, and we make sure that at any given meal, you find what you want to eat on campus.
Thank you, thank you. So we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to go kind of one at a time, answering some more of these questions students are submitting. So I'm going to pass this one to Cherry, which is, can you tell us about some student traditions and some customs here at Hamilton? So what are some of your favorite traditions at Hamilton?
One of my favorite thing is we have this end of the year celebration. It's called CNC Day. And I know that before COVID, we invited Galantics to come here, and then we had like a big concert. Everyone kind of just like hang out together. That was right before finals. So we all kind of got distressed, and then we went into finals. We do have like all of these like mini activities, gatherings throughout the semester, and which is really a great way that like everyone kind of just come out together, that you like someone that you probably won't assume that you will ever talk to, like you will be able to talk to them and hang out together. So that's something I really love.
Yeah, class and charter day when everybody comes out and celebrates the community and kind of relaxes a little bit as everybody's getting ready to go into finals. Yeah, definitely a fun day for sure. Okay, so then we have somebody who's asking, I'm going to pass this to Panita. And maybe I'm going to ask everybody to answer this question because I think it's probably on people's mind, which is, what is one thing you wish you had known before you came to Hamilton? So if we could start with Nita with that question, what's something you wish you had known? So we already learned the bowling tip, but beyond the bowling tip, what would you have liked to know?
Well, a lot of people told me this, but I didn't really believe it until I came here. But Hamilton is cold, and you think that wasn't going to be an issue, but I was like, okay, I can just weather through it. Please wear a coat. Yeah, I was like, I can survive without that, but apparently I can't, and I had to learn that for myself. Trial and error, but otherwise just be mindful of the weather. And if you've never experienced it before, people will most likely tell you a lot about this, but just gear up. Don't be cocky like I was. But yeah.
So yeah, winter is going to happen, and particularly if you're coming from a warm climate like Thailand, right? It's a different experience. So Cherry already gave us the tip, which is that you can actually ask for a happy lamp, so a sunshine lamp, which can help you in the winter as well. We also do have support systems in place for students. If you do need winter coats or support getting a winter coat, things like that, we can help you with winter coats and boots and that type of thing. But good tip for sure. So Yassine, passing off to you. What's something you wish you had known before you came to Hamilton?
I would say how to get ready for your first year. So like your first semester, we're on campus, especially with the logistics. And this is something we're working on right now for our international students that are incoming, which I'm so happy about, But basically, when I first came here, I struggled with like what to bring with me to college and what are the things that I needed to have on me, and what should I provide and what did the college provide. Basically to get away, not have to deal with not having bed sheets on your first day on campus, which by the way, the college made sure I got bed sheets and everything that I needed. But one thing with this is that we're working right now on international students orientation, or for our incoming international students. And I'm so glad I could voice that concern and it was taken into consideration to make sure that we tell our incoming international students what to bring with them. And once they're on campus, we're going to take them so they can, buy or get all the stuff that they also need, like the essentials, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big thing you think about, right? Do I need to bring toothpaste? Do I need to bring sheets? Like you said, what is it that's going to be provided? And I can only bring so many bags, right? How do I prioritize that space? So I do think that's a really important tip for sure. And we are going to be supporting students with some lists, things to bring. And then also as part of orientation, we do a trip to Target. I think that's in conjunction with the ICA, right? So giving people advice and being like, this is what I got, this is what was helpful, and kind of helping to bring some of that mystery out of that process, but very understandable concern. So Cherry, something you wish you had known.
I would say that we are more similar than we're different. I think that's definitely something that I took to heart, especially for those of you whose first language isn't English. I understand even just the thought of speaking it can be daunting. But trust me, like people here, they won't be like, oh, like, oh, like they would never be like that, and they were always here to listen. And I've made one of my, like, I had all of my friends group are kind of across different backgrounds, and because I was willing to take a chance in myself to go out there and make friends. So yeah, so you will have more similarities than with other people than you actually know. So don't constrain yourself in any way. And
Yeah, that's a very good tip, right? Speaking another language, different culture and everything, it's easy to be up in your head. But realizing that when you hear somebody with another language, with an accent, that really means that they speak two languages, which is just very much more impressive in that regard. Okay, so then we're going to do our last question. We're going to wrap up. So this is going to be for everyone. So everyone, all of our students who are participating in the call today, they're getting ready to apply to college in the United States. What piece of advice would you give international students who are getting ready to apply to the United States? We'll start with Yassine.
One piece of advice I would make is be organized. Be extremely organized. Be aware of all the documents you have to upload. Be aware of all the deadlines. The whole process of being international, it doesn't stop at applying to the college. There's some documentation, there's some travel stuff that you have to take care of. So honestly, I say for international students, the process really shows that you're ready to be an adult, because you're taking care of so many things, and it's much more complicated as it is for like maybe like a domestic student. But if you're organized enough, it will not be a problem. So just make sure you know what's going on, and definitely do not let this whole process mess with your education, with your daily activities. Make sure you keep track of that as well. And it's, for me, I think it's so much better for international students because it's so much more satisfying, the whole process and being done with it. I still have videos of me sending my application to Hamilton, because on the Common App thing, when you send your application, you get this little confetti on the screen, and I still have a video of me just reacting to that a couple of years ago. And yeah, just be organized, honestly.
Thank you. Panida, your advice.
Don't stress yourself out. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. Keep a cool head, because like Yassine said, you're gonna be doing a lot of things, filling out a lot of forms, not just for international students, but just the college process in general. That can be taxing. That is a lot of things to do. So be aware of that, make time to, what do you call it, relax, um, you know, be aware of your health, your wellness. Just keep that in mind always because you're going to college, but you're still yourself and you have to take care of yourself. So, yeah, the best way to put it is take care of yourself. This is a time where transitioning period of your life, and it'll be hard, but hopefully you'll make it through it. You want to make it through it, basically.
So important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I think that's something we all learn the hard way. It's important to be mindful of. And Cherry, your advice.
Both of the advice are really great. I think if the only thing I would add is keep reflecting. I think is a good habit to have, and like just mindset wise, once you get accepted to a school here, doesn't mean your journey is like it ends. Because I used to thought if once I get into college, my life would just be like confetti everywhere. It's not like that. Your journey still go on. So keep reflecting on where you want to position yourself, especially as international students in an American setting. How do you want to what kind of people you want to surround yourself with? Like, who do you want to be? And I think those questions are important questions to ask even before you come here, and not just have kind of a fake image of what the country of US is, but to listen to all of the stories and collect them all, and to have a more down to earth kind of image of what you're going to.
So I think that's such good advice. So be organized, make sure to take care of your mental and emotional health through the process, and also be reflective of what do you want, what are your goals, and realizing that it's going to be an experience, it's going to be a journey. Hopefully it's going to be very uplifting, very rewarding one. As we said throughout the session, it's also important to realize there are going to be times that it's going to be hard. So part of that is also making sure you're prepared, reflecting, balancing your emotional and physical health, and being organized. So I think that wraps us up quite well. So we wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all your questions. This was a very engaging session. Love answer. We're going to be doing virtual events throughout of our campus community. And you can visit hamilton.edu/discover, and that page will be updated frequently with new events throughout the summer. But with that said, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you have a great day, afternoon, evening, depending on where you're calling in from. And go Continentals.